Welcome to the Law of Relevancy podcast. Today, my guest is Jay Silver. He is the CEO and founder of HelaCon. They are a company that specializes in doing what I always wanted to do in the sandbox, which is play in dirt all day long. Jay, how's it going? Thanks for joining us.
Going really well, Cord. Thanks for having me on the show. Looking forward to the conversation today.
You know, I got to tell you, of all the social media feeds that I see from businesses, yours is one of my favorite. I love logging onto LinkedIn and seeing what you guys are up to nowadays. Like, I'll see you guys doing stuff that I'll see on like Discovery Channel, where I'll see concrete lifting and chemical grout going into something. It is super cool. Congratulations on doing a hell of a job with that.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, we got some really great people showcasing what we do out in the field, and you're right. It's a pretty unique niche industry, and what we do is at least I'm in it day to day, but it's rewarding to hear that somebody else is intrigued or interest from seeing what we put out there.
Well, it's cool
on social.
Yeah,
which we're doing a lot of different things today versus what we used to do back in the day with just sinkhole repair.
Well, your business has changed a lot, and I know we're going to get into that. But it is super cool. Like you just said, you have a niche business with the foundation repairs, and you can go through the whole litany of things that you guys do at your work. But one of the things that I really like about it, just from like studying business and like looking at businesses, is that because of the equipment required and the expertise and the skill sets of your team, there's not a lot of people that can do what you do, is there?
No, it's like you were saying, it is a pretty unique specialty trade that we're doing. The barrier to entry is fairly high with the equipment and getting it tooled and properly set up. And it's taken us over 20 years of just learning and perfecting our craft. We have some guys with us that have been with us over decades of a time. So we've seen a lot from the sinkhole days to now doing foundation repairs, seawall, soil stabilization, all sorts of different solutions that we're still using the same products, believe it or not, that we used back in the sinkhole repair days. Just a bit of a retooling or using it in a different application or learning from engineers. Oh, you could use it this way and solve this problem. So it's been definitely a fun process over the years.
Well, knowing how creative you are, I would imagine you're probably going to those engineers and asking them like, hey, could I use this for this too? Not just waiting for them to invent a new use for some of these.
Yeah, our team members are constantly collaborating with engineers on better ways. We're also, we do a good amount of collaborative lunch and learns with engineers throughout the state to share different solutions, different methods that we've found and been able to solve problems that may relate into their world. And sometimes a light bulb goes on and it's like, oh yeah, we could use this way in this application, and we'd like you to take a look at this. And so it's definitely been a collaborative effort with engineers and our own team internally.
I can see that happening. I call this podcast the Law of Relevancy, because keeping your mind sharp, keeping your skills sharp, trying new things, all those things make you relevant, right? And you guys have been relevant for a really long time. And it's not exactly a straight line to just go in and start a business that does what you guys do. How did you actually get started in entrepreneurship? When was the first time that you got to see what it takes to be an entrepreneur?
Gosh, that would be decades and decades ago. I think a lot of it all starts with your parents. In my case, I was very grateful that I had entrepreneurial parents. My dad, before I was born, dealt with car radio and stereo equipment, and by the time I came along, he had a small used car dealership, and my mom worked in the business. So by the time I was probably 8 years old, I mean, he had me out there washing cars and teaching me, use the newspaper to clean the windows, and you do it this way. And so he's running all through this. So by the time I was, maybe 10, I had my little washing, detailing, waxing business. And he also, another thing taught me that I recall as a 10-year-old to reupholster seats in
No way.
old Volvos. So we would take the seats apart, disassemble them, repair the cushions, put it back on, and put it in the cars. And I think at the time, gosh, this was back in the 80s, and he would pay an upholsterer. I think it was in the $100 or $150.
That's not cheap, yeah.
No, it wasn't. So he said, if you can learn how to do this, I'll pay you what I was paying to outsource this to an upholsterer, and you can have the business. And I was like, okay. So I learned all that, and I was gung ho to do these seats. So I knew from a very young age that the entrepreneurial bug was there for me. So I, everything from cutting lawns to, as I kind of clearly identified that I didn't care as much for the manual type part of it.
Yeah.
I enjoyed more of the business and the process aspect, which at a young age, I never really thought, I could eventually start having people build a team to do this stuff. But it did start at a very young age.
So did you have the best collection of like He-Man and Skeletor figurines in the neighborhood with all that money, or what did you do with that?
No, it was my
Bots?
parents also taught me a lot about saving, whether that was a good thing, or I think it was a good thing. But I had my little bank account, and I usually would save up for more a bigger ticket item.
Okay.
And to give you an example, one was a dirt bike. So my dad would always make these agreements with me on, hey, if you can save up half of the money, I'll match you another half and buy it for you.
Nice.
So
The old
I think it
dad
was
co-op.
a dirt bike. The other one was lived on a lake right here in Carewood. So I born and raised right here in Tampa Bay on Half Moon Lake. And another one was a little inflatable dinghy with a 15 horse on it.
Nice.
And then by the time, even when I was at 15, by the time I was 12 or so, it was all right, I need to start saving for a car. Maybe it was 12 or 13. I can't recall exactly which year. It was early enough on that I knew by the time I turned 15 that I could have the car, so I could have my learner's permit and have a year under my belt. So once I turned 16, I could drive. And where I'm going with that story, my dad said, if you save up half the money, I'll put the other half, but you got to take care of the gas, the insurance,
Right.
the maintenance. So again, it all, to answer your question, it started on a very young age, and it carried on through college. So we can talk about that as well.
I bet your parents
definitely
were super proud of you, seeing you take on all that responsibility. And I mean, it was, I don't think I knew how to write a check until I was 17 years old. It was like, I still was, doing odd jobs here and there, pulling weeds at my dad's plant and things like that. But, you sounded like one heck of an entrepreneur. You were blowing way past lemonade stands.
Yeah. I was definitely anything as a young kid, anything I could do, Cord, to make money and save it to either get that dirt bike or that car.
Yeah. What car was it?
Early
what'd you
age
get?
on, by the time I was in college, my parents instilled the importance of saving and investing.
Yeah.
So the Roth IRA at a young age.
That's amazing.
Basic things, but
What
yeah,
car
it
did you
was,
end up getting?
I got a 1987 flip up lights Honda Accord, little Honda Accord. Yeah, it was
Used
I think
or new?
gold.
Was it used or was it new?
Oh, used, of course. Yeah, dad was a used car salesman. So
Growing
growing up, we never bought new cars. He always was, you buy a new car, you drive it off the lot, and you lose X amount. So. But now as an adult, I buy a new F-150 or
Sure. Well, nowadays
But,
it's actually a better deal to get a new car. It's weird. It's
Yeah.
like all the benefits and warranties and everything else you get.
36 months, 0% financing back then.
Right.
2015. I don't think they have that any longer now, but yeah, you're right. Sometimes it makes more sense to buy new now.
Yeah, for sure. So tell us how you actually got into the business that you're in. When you started Helicon, you weren't always doing foundation repairs from day one, were you?
No, when we So how I got into Helicon, have to back up while I was in college. So I took an ad out of the newspaper for a company that was buying distressed properties, foreclosed homes, fixer-uppers. And, I was going to go around and do the field yard sign type marketing.
So the ad you responded to was an employment job.
Yeah, an employment job while I was in college, just to pay my way through school. I had done some other things previously to help that as well. But yeah, I think it was an $10 an hour ad out of the newspaper, and I was always kind of the kid that if I'm going to take an opportunity, I want it at least to be something interesting or unique or niche or somewhere where I could go and learn. And I'd be willing at this point as a young college kid to work for minimum wage or, if I can go and learn something. So I saw this job and interview with them. I was like, oh, buying foreclosed homes, distressed properties. That's pretty interesting. I've always have a kind of interest in real estate. And for my part, or role in the organization was just putting out, we buy foreclosed signs on the side of the road. You probably see them all over the place. Yeah. So it started out with the foreclosed homes, and then probably not only about 90 days after I was there, they, and this was back in the early, like 2002-ish or 2001, kind of blurs a little bit together. But they quickly transitioned over to buying sinkhole homes. They discovered that, hey, if we can buy these sinkhole homes on, pennies on the dollar. And they started out in the beginning, they had other companies that would come in and do the foundation repair, the sinkhole repair. And they quickly learned, as the same as I did, that let's go ahead and build our own repair company on. So they went out and got the equipment, started repairing their own sinkhole homes. And I kept continuing to not only do the yard marketing, but learn ins and outs about the investment side, having the investors that were buying these homes, because it was, as I explained, it was a flipping process. Instead of buying foreclosed fixer-uppers, switch over to sinkhole homes, do the same process with those. And I learned everything from over the year, or short amount of time that I was there, learned that entire business model, and learned I was bringing in investors, people that were buying these homes. And, I saw the opportunity there, and we were only in Tampa, and I was willing to relocate, wanted to go over to Orlando, relocate, saw a good opportunity over there to be doing the same thing that we were doing in Tampa. And just couldn't really, maybe it was at my young age, inexperience, just really could have been my communication style. I just wasn't able to have a sync or a fit with the ownership to get them to agree to let me go off and expand this over in Orlando. So, as I mentioned, I had the entrepreneur bug. I was young, still living at home at the time. And, I looked at it as, hey, I've learned all this, let's really, you've always wanted to be an entrepreneur. Here's your chance. Just, part ways and no hard feelings. And you did a lot of hard work and good while you were there. And we shook hands and parted ways. And, we started, within a very short amount of time after I bought and sold my first three houses, was able to build a foundation repair team to fix those houses. And kind of going
how did you buy the first house? Here you are, how old are you at this point?
Yeah, at this point, how old was I? I was about 21, 22. This was about in 2003. So I was about 21 years old. I was still in college. No money to start a business.
Well, that's my question. That's my question. So, for a sinkhole type home, they're uninsurable, right? Don't you need cash to buy a sinkhole home? Don't you need to be able to pay for cash, for a foreclosed sinkhole home? Where does a 21-year-old come up with those resources to be able to get the first one done?
Yeah, the first one, and again, thanks and grateful for my parents. I had some, as many people do, small little business failures along the line of where my mom gave me $2,000 or $3,000 to start this and didn't work out. And, I always took me a while to pay back, but I always paid back,
Nice.
Whether it was my $8 an hour job or my $10 an hour job. So when I came to my mom with this and said, hey mom, I need you to write me a check for $50,000 because I'm going to be able to pay you back though in 60 days.
That's a bigger apple.
Or
that's a bigger bite of the
somewhere
apple,
around that number. And I lay the whole business plan out to her and show her, we're going to close on it here and we're going to resell it 60, 90 days and you'll have your money back. And I'm going to go on to the next one and the next one and the next one. And, she, bless her heart, said,
she did it.
You stroked me the check and said, you'll pay me back. And I believe in you. And that was the seed money to actually buying the first house. It was up in Hudson or Port Richey.
Are your parents
area.
still around?
My mom is still around. She's still kind of the semi-retired in the business now. Does some of our kind of auditing on the back end.
So she's still
of
supporting
files,
you.
But she's still supporting me, and she's been definitely a huge factor in my success. And that's one thing with my parents. They really did invest a lot of time and something looking back that I'm really grateful for, seeing.
No doubt about it.
Some parents, they work a lot of hours, and seem like with entrepreneurial parents that they always had a good amount of time for me.
That's huge, and it sounds like those lessons translated directly into your life and your lessons and your success. So you took the $50,000. Your mom writes you a check for $50,000. You buy your first house.
Yeah, bought the first sinkhole house. Yeah, so I bought that, and I still remember the little 2-story house up in Port Richey today. I probably have the address written down somewhere. I know I have our first sinkhole repair client up on a little plaque in our office. But we bought it. Forget the exact number, but back then we could buy houses for 20, 30 cents on the dollar and get them fixed up and then sell them close to market value. So, say if you buy a house for 20 or 50 and you're selling it for 200, 90 days later, you got to fix the foundation repair. And, I'm just spitballing some numbers out there.
It's got to be insurable again, right?
Yeah, it's got, once you do repair the house, they are reinsurable. Mm-hmm. Back in the olden days, there was even financing available as long as you were going to fix it. So there were creative ways that we also utilized. So we didn't have to utilize just cash only to buy them. But we also had a whole pool of investors. We had it was a whole gamut of a full cycle of the real estate appraisers, title company, mortgage investors.
That's a fast growing business for a 21-year-old. How did you manage that growth?
By trial by fire. It was, I was very fortunate early on to see the benefit of coaches and mentors and different folks that could come in and give you some guidance. So early on I worked with a gentleman named Jeff Ruby with Red Rock Leadership that was brought in and helped a lot with strategy and building process. Because in the beginning, until we got up to, we were buying probably approximately 5 to 10, possibly even more houses every single month, and then selling that same amount every single month. So we were going through hundreds of houses per year, and it was definitely a lucrative engine. But to answer your question about how to manage it all as a young entrepreneur who hadn't finished college yet, who was started out in engineering, then shifted over to business management because I knew I wanted to be in business.
I did the exact same thing. I started off in engineering, and then at my college we called it the M train. It's like the people who didn't make it as an engineer jumped on the M train, and we all graduated with management degrees. But you probably could have finished it. I was a little more distracted, but with the extracurricular activities, not that we're the ladies. Let's just put it that way. I like to enjoy myself.
Yeah. So it was, back to the learned early on the benefits of having system and process and structure. Definitely for my personality style and visionary style, that's not my strong suit, but it was learned by survival, I guess, instincts. As you know, as a young entrepreneur, you got to sometimes learn how to do everything in the very beginning. But it was, it was tough in the beginning, especially until we started really building on the foundation repair company was when I learned even more about systems and structure, because we went from 5-10 employees to almost 100.
That's
in a
crazy.
Rapid amount of time.
And you're still like your mid-20s.
Yeah, it was quite the.
Did anybody
expansion.
ever come to the office and be like, ask you like, to see the boss or whatever, and like a young dude, you're talking to him, brother.
Yeah, in the young days, I guess it was
a
little bit unique to have somebody that young. Now, my 40s, young 40s, I think I'm like one of the old guys now.
Yeah, true.
But yeah.
Well, you guys, so not only did you grow that business, and I'm super impressed that you are actually bringing in mentors and coaches and systems and processes. I mean, that's what management school is all about. Like knowing that those tools exist, they don't exactly tell you, exactly how to do it or anything like that. But it's just the fact that you knew that stuff existed. You knew that you needed to grow there, and you did it. You took the steps to do it, because not long after the heyday of what you were doing, regulations and whatnot pinched that off pretty hard, didn't it?
Yeah, there was, going off on my own, and I thought I was just going to buy, just buying sinkhole homes. And this was 2004, and buying and selling, just fixing our own. And I got my GC license throughout that process as well. And something that kind of really struck a chord with me, was my mom's friend Tony. She had went through this was probably about in 2008-ish. She went through a really bad sinkhole repair experience to where, she had a lot of damage. She didn't think things were done right, miscommunications, just an overall bad experience. And she kind of was reaching out to me on advice and what to do, and saying, man, I wish you guys would do this. I know you only do it for your investment properties, but I wish you'd consider open this up to, the general public. And that was where it really kind of resonated with me on why aren't we doing this for others? We've really perfected the process, fixing our own sinkhole houses and looking out at our competition. And we only used competition probably our first 2 or 3 houses, and we had our repair company up quickly to do our own houses. And it was like, we can do it better. We care more because we treat our customers and take care of them as it was our mom or our father or our grandmother. And why aren't we doing this? And kept asking a few questions. And after we had those strategic decisions, or discussions, we were like, we're going to open this up to the general public. And by about 2009, couple of years in, started to just have such a passion for the repair side. And I don't know if it was just taking care of homeowners and businesses in a time of need, where their business or their house is sinking in the ground. It's
kind of a big deal when your house is like in distress.
It's kind of traumatic experience. You're not only angst, there could be anxiety, stress, and you don't know where to go or which company to trust. And we started out around that time, and where I was going with this, the passion kind of shifted from the the real estate and the flipping of the houses.
Yeah.
And by 2009 or so, just decided we're going to shift gears. We're going to focus on sinkhole repair, and that's all we're going to specialize in throughout the state of Florida. And we're going to become the household name, go-to trusted advisor for sinkhole repair. That's what our mission is. That's our purpose. We want to have the biggest impact, help as many homeowners and businesses that are being affected by these soil sinkhole problems. And fast forward from 2009 to 2012, I can go through some. That was when we went from having a couple crews just doing our own houses to we exploded and went from 2 crews of maybe 10 or a dozen guys all the way up past 80 employees, 80 team members. And it was a fun ride and a fun experience that was driven by insurance claims and sinkhole and a lot of different things that were going on besides yes, there was legitimate sinkhole problems, but some things needed to be reformed and adjusted. But fast forward into your last question about what happened in the industry is in 2011, some reform needed to be happen. But what happened is the insurance lobbies,
Powerful lobbies.
Really powerful lobbies, hundreds of politicians and lobbyists up there advocating for reform. What did we have on our industry side back then in 2011? We had zero. Yeah. We didn't have a seat at the table. We had nothing. So what happened there? And it's not like, I compare it to if about the plaintiff law. They have an extremely strong lobby that fights the defense side and insurance. So it's more of a balance of power. But for our little industry, for sinkhole repair example, we had nobody at the table. They had an army at the table. So they were able to, and unfortunate for the masses and homeowners, really swing the pendulum 100% to their favor and in essence, eliminate the coverage completely. And the coverage that is there comes with an extremely high deductible. If you do get the additional coverage, it's maybe double what your underlying coverage is. So in essence, eliminated out of the policies in 2011. Started to be written into the policies or was voted in 2011, then written into the policies in 2012. And and when that happened, when that swipe of the pen kind of happened, it was as a young entrepreneur, it was shocking, I guess you could say, and a little bit of, I wouldn't say a reality check, but more of maybe a reality check of that nothing is guaranteed in this world or business, or just because you have an 8-figure business today doesn't mean tomorrow, it can't be eliminated and gone.
I mean,
So
you've got all those crews that are probably jobs even scheduled, and then once that signature happens, it's okay. Our collection strategy on these jobs is totally different.
And it wasn't just us; it was engineering companies that were doing the testing for sinkhole. That was a big part of a lot of their businesses. So it was a trickle down effect. You saw the engineering companies, because they're at the forefront, they're doing the testing.
Yeah.
So that got cut off immediately almost, because now, there's not coverage, so they don't need to do testing. So once the testing starts stopping, then it's only inevitable before it comes through the pipeline and to us. So, there were a lot of things going on at the time. There were thousands of claims bottled up, sinkhole repair claims bottled up in the system. That were either in litigation. So citizens got together and formed a managed repair program called the Citizen Sinkhole Managed Repair Program, and the top best sinkhole companies in the state participated. And we're one of only 3 companies that are on that list now today. So we still do any legitimate sinkhole stuff that does come up in the state. We probably do 80-90% of it.
Well, that speaks a lot to the integrity of your organization to be a part of that group after, the reform and everything that happened. But, we don't have a ton of time, but I do want to talk about how did you work through some of that adversity? So here you are, you've got this thriving business, and now because you're so concentrated into this one area, how did you actually adjust?
Yeah, by about 2016 was really when we saw a strong impact of that law change cord. Adjusting was difficult, and to give any other entrepreneurs out there any advice that is going through the same thing, it's wish possibly taking a step back, and it's all about strategy and your strategic planning, and what direction you decide to take is what I believe now is paramount to reinventing yourself or becoming successful. If you take the wrong path, I don't care how great your team is or how great your people are, you're setting yourself up for failure. And I mention that because I've gone through my things that I perceive as failures. Maybe they're not. They're just stepping stones along the way. Things that aren't possibly a right fit with your values. That's another thing as a young entrepreneur. Recommend not taking a knee-jerk reaction. And I probably was guilty of doing some of that in the time of, the sinkhole is going away. Oh, we got to try this. We got to diversify. We got to do that. And, making sure you stay to your core and what you do really well and really great. We went in a few different avenues to start. We tried out the property restoration, and I say tried it out. We did fairly well at it. The fire, the water, the wind. But at the end of the day, the service, the 24/7 mentality of it, the drop at a moment's notice. When I look at it now, it wasn't really fitting with my family first type value.
Yeah.
It was more of everything's an emergency. And I probably, I say, failure, just deciding it doesn't necessarily have to be a failure. It could be just not a right fit.
A lot of lessons to be learned.
So kind of just through that, I decided, had to do some soul searching and decided, we've done this for 3 years. We're doing pretty well at it, but it's just not long-term trying to simplify, unify, get back to what we do well. So decided, let's go ahead. And so I went through not only the process of law changing, but having to scale. We were at 80 employees, having to scale down because sinkhole has come down, having to eliminate a whole entire division, which is, very another kind of experience to go through.
It's super tough.
Where you have millions of dollars of contracts that you have to perform, yet you want to phase this down. And I'm always in my value always have a strong caring and commitment to my team members. And I always want to do what's right and do what's fair and, set people up for success, whether they're with Helicon or they're gone. I tell people, I tell them my one wish for when you come to Helicon is whatever you leave. I wish that you're here as a lifer, but if you're not and you go somewhere else, I want you to say, hey, my experience there, I'm a better person personally, professionally. Yeah. And I feel that we've done our job. But yeah, so went through that venture, and just through probably more again strategic thinking and planning and looking at the landscape, looking at the environment, and it kept leading me back to foundation repair, and
right.
And I somewhat saw this even when we decided to go in different avenues, but it was something I was trying to say to myself when the sinkhole is going away, that sinkhole coverage may be going away. There may not be insurance funding to fix these problems, but there's one thing that I know 100% certain. that we're going to continue to build in Florida, in places where there's always going to be soil issues.
Right.
So one thing, sinkhole may be going away, but soil issues, erosion problems with Florida soils is here to stay permanently.
Mm-hmm.
And one statistic that I saw that reinforced that the other day is U.S. wide foundation repair is about 2.3 billion across the U.S. right now, and that's set to rise over the next few years. And 2027 is projected to be 3 billion.
Why is that? Are developers building in places
what that's back to is
are not as ideal?
No, this is foundation repair, just down to people's pool patios that are sinking because of loose soils. Codes back in the day didn't have in the building code as big of footers or as much foundation, so things have settled.
Just
so
more
there's
homes.
Just more homes. There's foundation repair is so broad. We're doing repairs underneath crawl spaces now, fixing joists and beams and putting in new jacks. So there's a big historic demographic of homes that that work's going to need to be done for the next who knows how many years. But I guess the reason why is just Florida soils, geology here is just loose, sandy, weak soils. So you're always going to have possible
it's
settlement.
It's going to move.
Yeah, it's gonna move, and when it does, in those cases, you need to have a solution to fix it. Because if you don't stop it and prevent it from continuing to go on, it causes more damage, can cost more money later on to fix.
Yeah,
so that's what I was like. Prevent it now to avoid costlier repairs later on.
I'm with you 1,000%. I was repairing the deck behind my house. I started doing it a couple weeks ago, and somewhere along the line, like this is a house we've lived in for just barely over a year. Somewhere along the line, a gutter, like a French drain, had popped off. The pipe had popped off the gutter, and so when it was raining, the water would just run right next to the house. It created like this undercut. And so I was looking, and I'm like, thank God there's no cracks or anything. But I tried to fill it in as best I could, and I probably should have called you guys. Maybe you still need to come out and look at it. But but I hooked everything back up and was looking to see where the water was pooling and everything, the next time it rained. And I think I'm okay, but you're right. I mean, it's like I live in this area where there's a lot of lakes, like right near Carrollwood where you live. And the soil looks dark, like rich, black Pennsylvania soil, but it's not. It gets a little wet, and next thing you know, it's all this white sand, and it moves around a lot. So you're 1,000% right. So I like hearing how you guys have kind of gone through your battles and fought through that, but you kind of stayed true to your, pardon the pun, foundational like philosophy of being focused on foundation. So you've done all that, and then you focused on your family. You made sure that no matter what you did, you were going to have time for your family, and somehow you find time for your community too.
Yeah, I feel it's it took me a while to get involved in the community and giving back, and I think again that I attribute that back to my young age and maybe not my upbringing wasn't instilled in me as much. But one thing, once I did have all this success, I was searching for a while to find where I could give back and make an impact. And one of my mentors, I think I mentioned Jeff Ruby, he brought me to a advisory board meeting for Eckerd Connects, and it was to talk about a new program that they were bringing from Portland, Oregon, called Friends of the Children, which is a national chapter. And in simplicity of it, it's taking a paid professional mentor, which they call a friend, and pairing them with a child that is facing the most challenges in society, and that could be parental incarceration where parents are not around, could be drug abuse, physical abuse, just horrific things that no child should have to go through. And they pair this mentor up with them at 6 years old is the ideal age. That's the the concept, and they stick with them all the way through high school, working with them 4 hours per week.
That's such a huge commitment.
Yeah,
That's
so
amazing.
They call it Friends of the Children. It was, again, originating in Portland, Oregon. I think they're up to 26 chapters throughout the United States now.
Wow.
Yeah, doing very, very well, doing great work out in the community. And this was about 6 years ago or so that Eckerd Connects brought Friends of the Children in partnership to do a pilot program of selecting 64 kids out of the foster care program and pairing them with friends to see the impact that would have, where previously and what Friends of the Children of Tampa Bay now does is they do it through school selection, where they work, which we feel is a better, produces a better result. But they'll go into the school and with teachers and the principal identify the kids that they feel are in the greatest need and select them into the program that way.
God, so good.
So they brought it about 6 or so years ago to Tampa. And then I had the honor and the pleasure of, this was about, gosh, the time flies by so fast. This was about 3 years ago, where we branched off and launched Friends of the Children of Tampa Bay as a standalone chapter, separate from Eckerd. And I was honored and proud to be the founding board chair that launched the chapter with some other fellow board members. And today, I believe the board is about 18 strong, but
Wow.
the board is expanded. We have more friends. We're servicing more children. Starting to get out there more in the community of one of our biggest challenges for many years was Friends of the Children. What is that?
It's very generic.
Nobody knows what it is, but
Yeah.
it's starting to get out a little more in the community, and you'd be amazed of the impact that a loving, trusting, caring adult can have on a child that has nobody from 6 years. They don't. Some of these children, maybe they have grandma or a caretaker that stepped in, but there's a lot of trauma there, a lot of times that needs to be worked through, sometimes behavioral issues in school. So the friends will actually go, unique thing about the program, because we work with the principals and the educators, the friends are able to come into the school and sit in the classroom if needed to help mentor and correct some of the behavioral issues going on. So it's kind of an extension, and teachers love it and schools love it, because it really it's kind of a holistic, synergizes in with the school.
But that
phenomenal
consistency
program.
is so incredibly important for those kids in need. Helps them, probably gives them a much greater chance of becoming successful and productive members of society.
Yeah, we believe every child should have a chance at being successful, and the program is the mission is to continue to break the cycle of generational poverty that kind of goes on from generation to generation. And
well, Jay, it sounds like you're working on the foundations of the community and in your business on foundations every single day. I really appreciate you coming in here and talking to us. Where can people follow you? Tell them about that cool social media feed. Where can we find that so that we can follow and see more of the cool projects you guys are working on?
Yeah, feel free to check us out on whether it's our website at heliconusa.com or on social on Facebook. We're at Helicon USA, as well as on Twitter. I think every platform these days we're trying to push.
But start
out
at the website and then find the platform.
Start at the website, and that we're always happy to be your trusted advisor. If you have any questions, foundation related, soil related, we're happy to be there as a resource for you.
That's awesome, Jay. I really appreciate it.
But yeah, thanks for having me on and talk a little bit about the Helicon journey and my journey.
The Jay Silver story.
Yeah.
I love it, man. Well, we'll follow you there, and you guys can follow us anywhere where podcasts are found, and also on the Bake More Pies website and the lawofrelevancy.com. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time.